Typically, atheists will deny the existence of God by postulating that the universe is eternal. If the universe is eternal, then there's no beginning. If there's no beginning, then there's no cause, and there's no need to talk about God to bring the universe into existence. God would just be superfluous. The very idea that a universe exists without a beginning creates insuperable difficulties. For if the universe does not have a beginning, that means we have an infinite series of past events. So if we chose any arbitrary moment, let's say the present, there would be an infinite series of past events.
The Kalam argument is this idea that the impossibility of an actual infinity, right? If the series of preceding events were infinite, we never could have traversed them to reach now. Of course, that assumes that time is one-dimensional. And that assumes that we don't use time in the model of like space-time where, you know, if you were to go in a straight line straight up above you, you know what would happen according to Einsteinian physics? If you went straight up, what would happen? If you just went you didn't veer forever, what would happen to you? You'd come back up to your feet again. You would go in a straight line, and yet you would come back around because of the curvature of space-time. So if you're viewing time as just a linear thing, then of course that makes sense. But think about how this destroys the concept of God. If it is true, as Adam asserts, that an actual infinity cannot exist in reality, therefore there must have been a beginning, if that's true, let's take that argument, then God, if he is actually infinite, cannot exist in actuality. Think about it. God must have had a first thought. If his argument is right, then God also must have had a beginning, because how could God have ever traversed the infinite series of his own previous thoughts to get to the point where he said, "Let there be light"? He could never have got there according to Adam's reasoning. Therefore, Adam just disproved the existence of an infinite God. Maybe there was a God who itself had a beginning, which just sort of begs the question, because then, well, then where did that God begin? If your God can exist without an explanation for its origin or for its ability to exist impossibly as an infinite being, if your God can exist like that, then why can't we say that about the universe itself? You misquote Hawking on the Big Bang. You probably are not aware of the fact that Stephen Hawking has changed his mind. Stephen Hawking and Penrose used to say in 1970 that there was a singularity at the beginning of the Big Bang. But now he has since backed up and said we were wrong about that. We were failing to take into account quantum mechanics. We were only looking at it through Einsteinian relativity. But if you consider quantum mechanics, then he says the singularity disappears, and in fact there was not an actual singularity beginning of time. There was at least that Planck minimum, that very small distance, which means that even at that Planck minimum size, there's a minimum size to